As we look at today's text, I'm reminded of this phrase, it's a setup. And normally when we hear those words, it doesn't have a positive connotation, right? When you hear a setup, that has a negative connotation, right? Because there's many ways to be set up, and setup means that you are told one thing only to find out it's something totally different, right? Anybody ever been set up? Uh-huh. Yeah. Anybody ever set somebody up? Right. It's not a fun, especially when you're the victim of a setup, it's not a fun thing, right? But there's many ways that we can be set up. We can be set up where you can be a drug dealer and somebody set you up to be robbed, right? Or you can be set up in a relationship where you go into the relationship thinking it's one thing and they have all the different motives than what you have, right? They're using you, right? Or you can be set up by the police, right? Right? Or you can be set up even at a store where they have a price on the shelf, but then when you get to the register, it's a whole different thing. Or you can order something, or you can order something online. Or what about when you order something online and the picture look good? Yeah. But then when you get it home, it's like, this don't look right. So a lot of times when we have this idea about being set up, it's usually a negative connotation attached to it, right? And so, again, all of us, we've either been a victim of it or we ourselves have been the perpetrators, have done our share of, or both, setting people up or being set up. And it's not fun, especially if you're the one on the receiving end. That's not fun. Who wants to get got? I don't, right? And so here in the text, there is a setup, but this setup doesn't have a negative connotation because this setup is being orchestrated by God. Mm-hmm. Did y'all know God could set you up?
Yes.
He can. But he's so smooth with it, right, Jason? He's so smooth with it that sometimes you don't even know you being set up.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever been a victim of being set up, did the person that was setting you up give you a memo that said, you know what, I'm about to set you up, or I'm about to come to your crib and rob you? Right? Nobody gives you a notice, right? And so here in the text, God doesn't give Saul a notice that he's being set up. And oftentimes that's what happens when we are a victim of being set up, is there's times when we don't even know we're being set up until after the fact, when we look back and be like, you know what, it was something about him. I knew he was shady, but why is it that when we look back and we say, oh, you know what, there was something about, why do we override that very thing that is there to kind of give us the red flags, like, you know what, I should have known dude wasn't right, because you know what, they said he used to beat the other girl. Yeah. Or I knew she was I knew she was loose. I'm trying to keep it clean. I should have known she was loose when she was dealing with all them other dudes. Yeah. What they call her, what they do when they cash you when they cash you from person to person.
Homie hopper.
A what?
Homie hopper.
A homie hopper. That's the first I ever heard that.
Me too. Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah. But oftentimes, again, we have these warnings, but here. A train, okay. Okay, let's get back. This conversation is taking a whole other turn. Right. And so we have, again, when we're victims of being set up, it's normally the reason why we are able to be set up is because we are unaware that we're being set up. So here in the text, we have a young man by the name of Saul, who has no clue that God is setting him up. And it happens on one day when his father has some donkeys that become lost. Little do Saul know that even in this, it's part of the setup. Somebody else's loss, their donkeys being lost, is part of the setup. But Saul don't know. And the only reason we know is because we read ahead, right? So let me tell you the story. So his father's donkeys get lost. He sends, his father Kish sends Saul on this journey to go find his donkeys. And before he leaves, he tells him, I want you to take one of the servants and I want you to go look for these donkeys. And so, as the text shares with us in verse 4 of chapter 9, it says, so he passed, this is after his father Kish gives him these instructions to go look for what is lost. It says in verse 4 that this is Saul. He passed through the mountains of Ephraim and through the land of Shalish, but they did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Shalem, and they were not there. Then he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they did not find him. So here he's on this journey, and he's looking for these lost donkeys. He's going from place to place, and he's coming up short. He's not able to find these donkeys that his father has sent him out to find. Again, he's on this assignment. He's on this journey of looking for something that is lost, and he can't find it. He then went to 4 locations, and as we will see in this text that this took him roughly 3 days. So 3 days of looking for something that was lost, something that didn't even belong to him. These were his father's donkeys, and he could not find them. And I don't know about you, but I don't know that I would have went to 4 places looking for something. Because after the first place that I looked, and I failed, I don't know that I would have went on to the second place. But what we find here in the text is Saul, he goes from place to place to place over a period of 3 days looking for these donkeys, and he's not able to find them. So what does that say he's done? He has not been successful. He has failed. You ever failed at anything? Just a few. While you've been on this Christian journey, while you've been on a journeying through this thing called life, have you failed?
Yes.
Maybe it's been on a job where you've done all that you thought that you could do, and you just wasn't successful, or in a relationship or a marriage. Failure. Whether it's been where you tried to raise your kids or whatever, and life just happens and you failed. Maybe it wasn't with that. Maybe it was just with sometimes what happens when we try to go through recovery, we get out there and life happens and we fail. We gave it what we could at the moment. It may not have been what we Well, I don't want to say that we didn't give it what we got, because sometimes we can give it what we got because that's all we have right now, but it doesn't meet the criteria of success. Because sometimes we can say, well, you didn't really give it all you got, but sometimes what the person has given is truly all they got at this time. Because as you continue to move through life, you might have been weak one moment in an area, but as you get back up, you might become stronger and stronger and stronger. Or am I losing anybody?
No.
Right. So again, he's been all these different places, and he has invested all of this time, and he still failed. What a waste of time it would seem like, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't say that it was really anything that he done or didn't do that caused him to be unsuccessful. He did everything he possibly could. He went on this journey. He's looking from place to place, because when something is lost, you don't get, when something is lost, Saul, there's nothing that's lighting up saying, this way, this way, this way. what you do is if you lose your money, if you lose your wallet, you're just kind of just looking. You're trying to look, where was the last place I had it? Where could I think of? It doesn't mean anything is wrong with you, because if something's lost, that means it's lacking information of where its location is, right? So he's doing his best by going. It didn't say that he showed up in the country of in the district or the place of Ephraim, in the mountainous area of Ephraim, and sat down and been like, you know what, these ain't my donkeys, no way. I don't even know why I'm out here. Many of us, because they belong to somebody else, we wouldn't even went on the journey. Like, what's wrong with you? You go, Kish, you go look for your own donkey. You know, many of us wouldn't even went on the journey because it had nothing to do with us. But thank God that, and we'll see later that, what if he would have answered that way? I'm not going. Because remember, this is a setup, and we're going to get there. This is a setup. So, again, many of us would have said, nah, I'm not fooling with Kish's donkey. I mean, or them donkeys always getting lost. I'm not going after him again. You know, this might not have been the first time that they were lost. But he took the task at hand, and he went for it. But he failed. Because failure is when you don't accomplish what you set out to do, right? So he fails. And the first thing that he wants to do is, guess what? What does he want to do? What does many of us do when we fail? We throw in the towel, we give up. Anybody else got one of those something out there?
You isolate.
You isolate yourself, or you start thinking about it over and over and over again, like, oh my God, I'm such a failure. You beat yourself. Is that what you said? Beat yourself up.
Or maybe somebody stole
Mm-hmm. Or you're trying to excuse the failure away, like, oh.
You hide it,
Mhm.
lie about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, what he would do is like many of us would have done, is he said, you know what, let's go back. I can't find him. Again, he's been 3 days out here doing this. Again, I remember I told y'all I don't even think I would have lasted past a day or even the first town, because I'm lazy, right? They ain't driving in the car. They ain't on a motorcycle. They either walking or going by. Well, they can't go by donkey because they lost, right? So they can't do that, right? They can't take an Uber and look for him, right? No. And so here they are, failure. And just like many of us, he's like, yo, let's turn back. Because he also says, because my father is going to start worrying about me instead of the donkeys, because why? I've been gone too long, right? And so this servant says to him, like, you know what? Let's not turn back. I know, and I'm paraphrasing, I know that there is a man of God in this next town. And I know something about this man of God. I know that he has the word of God. And when he gives the word of God, he spits straight facts. Y'all know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Mom, you know what that means? Somebody help her out. She don't know what that means. When he speaks facts, meaning that nothing is falling to the ground. His word is true. Whatever he speaks, he's accurate. When God speaks to him, God flows through him so accurately that his words don't fall to the ground, meaning that they do what they're supposed to do. Meaning that whatever he says is going to come to pass. So this servant is requesting that he, instead of going back, let's move forward and go see if this dude can tell us where these donkeys are. And so because Saul failed, you know, like many of us, even though somebody else is trying to give him a suggestion or solution, what do many of us do when somebody gives us a solution or suggestion and it's foreign to us? The first thing we do is we make excuses. And that's what Saul did. Well, in order to go see him, we need to have a gift. You know, we ain't got, our food is spent. We ain't got nothing to give. I ain't got no money. We don't have nothing. Isn't that like some of us when we fail? Either we want to turn back or if somebody, if that doesn't work, if somebody comes alongside of us and offers us a solution, the first thing we do is we make excuses for why we should not move forward, or why we can't move forward. Because he's not lying, he didn't have anything. So I don't want to use the word shouldn't, why we shouldn't turn back, because at this point, he didn't feel like he could move forward because he felt like he didn't have anything to offer or to give. Have you ever been in a place to where you just feel like you're spent? I ain't got nothing else. I don't have no more to give. Do you understand? JC, I've tried this over and over again, and I keep failing. I don't have no more energy to give at this. I'm tired. I'm spent. I'm fed up. You don't know what it feels like to continue to fail. Can you imagine every time he roamed through one of those towns and wasn't successful? 3 days on a journey, walking. That's tiring. See, we can look at him and like, okay, you just went 3 days. Sometimes we can be on the side of judgment and be like, oh, all you got to do is keep going. All you got to do is keep. But sometimes you're tired.
Yeah.
For sure.
Maybe not even tired physically from walking, but what about mentally?
Yeah.
Sometimes failure takes a toll on your psyche. And sometimes it's easier to turn back to what is familiar than to move forward in uncertainty.
Yeah, that's right.
Because even though he has this suggestion, he doesn't know what the outcome is going to be because he's never experienced the man of God. And sometimes we can be afraid of the unknown. What if I do this? Can I even stand to fail again? Do you know how heartbreaking it is to fail?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we need to have grace and mercy for people, because we look at it as it's so easy to get back up. I know that I had to be educated with addiction, because I'm like, well, why? If all they gotta do is quit, why do they keep doing it? But nobody told me that sometimes you can dream about it when you're off of it.
Oh, yeah. A lot.
Nobody told me that just because you break the habit, if you haven't addressed the thing that caused you to be on it from the first place, it's just a matter of time before you get sucked back in, right?
That's right. That's right.
So, here's a solution. And so he sees that he has the solution and he says, okay, let's try it. And so they go on their way to this man of God, and then as they're on their way, they're going up the hill to the city to where this man is, in hopes for him to be able to share with them where these help him find him, whatever. But the setup comes because when he gets and he collides with the man of God reveals to him that the donkeys has already been found. Okay? Ooh. Isn't that like salt? They put salt in your
wound.
Because somebody else was successful at what I was sent out to do. Somebody else was able to find. Isn't that something where you might be unsuccessful in recovery, but she might be? But not only that, something else happens. Remember, I said this is a setup, right? What he's telling him here, he tells him, don't worry, those donkeys that you've been looking for, they've been found. So I'm sure he's trying to process that. What you mean they've been found? I've been out here 3 days trying to find, how is it that they found? Or how come I didn't get the memo that they were found? So not only did he say that they had been found, but he also says to him, he reveals to him in this moment what his purpose is. So remember how I said God was setting him up and it was unbeknownst to him? He used everything that he went through on this journey to get him where he needed to be, even the failure. The failure was part of the process in order to get Saul to where he needed to be. Because God was setting him up in order to reveal to him what his purpose and destiny is. He used the failure to usher him into where he needed to be. So yes, you failed. Yes, Saul failed, because he never did find him. Somebody else found him. But guess what? There was greatness on the other side of the failure, because his purpose was revealed, because Samuel told him what the Lord sent him to say, that he was going to be the leader over Israel. In other words, he was going to be the first king of Israel. This failure, him being anointed king over Israel, didn't change the fact that he failed at something. Are y'all with me?
Yeah.
This failure, not long ago failed. Let's be clear about that. This wasn't a failure that was way in his past. This failure just happened.
That's right.
Currently, yeah. This was something new and fresh. But it was a setup. It was meant to happen. It was never meant for him to be successful at that moment, in that situation.
So he must have failed.
I wouldn't say he set him up to fail, but perhaps he used that situation to usher him to where he needed to be in order for him to be, in order for his purpose, his true purpose, to be revealed, which is he's going to be king.
He set him up for the blessing.
Set him up for the blessing.
That's right. That's right.
He ain't going to be looking for his father's donkeys for the rest of his life.
Sorry, Dad.
He was destined to be king.
That's right.
A failure. A failure. Didn't we talk about that at the beginning of this text? I asked to raise your hand. How many of us has been a failure? Could it be that God is using that to get you where you need to be? Yes, you failed the last time. But guess what it did? It led you where you needed to be, and you needed to hear this message because God knew He was going to do that. But He wants you to know failure was a setup, because He has something greater on the other side of that failure. Can you receive that today? Is that a mic drop? No, I can't get a mic drop till we get. I gotta take Christ to the cross. Right. There's greatness on the other side of your failure.
As a king can
But
fail.
guess what? Let me tell you how he responded to this good news, this greatness that is on his life. Remember, he had just failed. Now he went through a failure. And now somebody's telling him, oh, you're going to be the next king of Israel. You're going to be the leader over Israel. And this is what you're going to do. And this is why you're going to be a leader. He was telling him how Israel had basically been beefing with the Philistines for a long time. And he was going to help take care of that. And so many of us will be like, well, he should be happy. That should be happy, right? That's great, right? Gonna be king, that's dope. Is that dope? I'm gonna be the man. I ain't gonna be out here looking for these donkeys. I'm gonna be the man. I'm gonna be in leadership. He's popping collars, right?
Yep.
He didn't do that. The first thing he did was felt like he was inadequate.
Yeah.
First thing he said to him, his response to his plan of his purpose, the plan and purpose that God had for him, the first thing he said was, I'm a Benjamite. Y'all want to know about them Benjamites?
Yeah.
Although they was one of the tribes of Israel, let's not even get to that part yet. Let me tell you about their past.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, tell them.
They had a checkered past.
Yep. Real check.
Want me to tell you what they had in their family? They had some rapists in their family.
Mm-hmm.
They had some homosexuals in their
Yeah.
family.
Preaching.
They operated in injustice in their family. They withheld justice from somebody that needed to have justice. And not only that, they was beefing with their other family, the other tribes.
That's it.
I'm not just talking about bickering, they got to fight. And the first few times that they went to war, they was kicking butt. So we can say that they were some great warriors. Raggedy is I don't know what. Great warriors. But then, as they continued to go to war with their other relatives, they ended up losing and they ended up getting wiped out a lot, meaning that what happened was they started out as a big tribe, but because of all the stuff that they did and then how the other tribes ended up whipping their tail, they became the smallest tribe.
Yeah.
So then he hits them with, I'm a Benjamite, which is the smallest tribe out of the 12 tribes of Israel. And so he's feeling like he's inadequate. Like, how can this be? Do you see how he's seeing himself? He just failed. And then now he's telling them, you know what, I'm inadequate. Do you know who my family is? Do you know where I come from? I came from the hood. Some of us. You know, I got a crazy family background. My bloodline is off the chain. We got some stuff in our family background, right? We got some stuff. And then he didn't just talk about the Benjamites, then he gonna say, my clan is the least. Now he's talking about his immediate family. The least. So he doesn't see himself in a great light.
Right.
Again, he's failed, fresh failure. And then doesn't even think he's worthy to be a king, to be chosen. But what we see in the text is that the man of God never even addressed that. He don't say, what do you mean? Of course you are. He don't do that. Mm-mm. He told him that there was a meal prepared for him. He told him that there was a special seat of honor for him. And not only that, there was a special portion of meat for him that was already set apart for him. Prior to he even arrived there, it was prepared for him. This was being prepared the day before he reached that last point where he failed. So there's times in our life, just like I shared with you, the solution to your issue was already in the works before you even got started with the failure. Y'all see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So, God is not interested in our excuses. All he wants from us is a yes. Obedience. Now, later in life, we'll see that Saul did some crazy stuff. He messed up. You know, how many know that God can bless you with something you can mess up?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
He messed up. Because a lot of times we like to talk about King Saul and his mess ups, but before he messed up, he was doing good. He was doing good. And so there's a flip side to the blessing is, can you maintain the blessing that God gives you? Because maintenance comes with continual obedience.
Obedience, participation.
Y'all thinking today. We've been having some thinking sermons, right?
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Need 'em.
But they're wonderful.
So this was a divine setup, unbeknownst to Saul. And in the same sense, that's what God does with us. There's some things that God is working out in our lives. And we're looking at it as failure. But God is saying, no, son, no, daughter, this is a setup. That was meant to happen. I meant for that to happen. Because I meant for that to happen because it caused you to get to where you needed to be. Even the donkeys being lost, that was part of the plan. What if you wouldn't have went and did what your father told you to do? Do you know what was on the other side of that? What was on the other side of obedience? Again, he had to be obedient to his father to even take the journey. And that is what God is saying to us today.
Yeah.
Be obedient.
Yeah.
Take the journey. No, you don't know what's ahead. And yes, sometimes in this journey, you're going to be faced with failure. Keep going because there's greatness on the other side of that failure.
Right, right.
And when I reveal that to you, I know I don't want to hear how small you are. I don't want to hear about how your family is crazy. I don't want to hear about your mistakes. All I need is a yes. And God is saying, take your seat at the table, the seat of honor. I got a portion for you that I set aside just for you. Your portion is not my portion. My portion is not your portion. And the same is true for all of you. God has a portion that is set aside just for you. Yes, you, raggedy you, crazy you, right? Crazy me, I'm in it too. Yes, lying you. Yes, checkered background you. Yes, rap sheet longer than 270. Yes, us. It's a setup, but it's a good setup,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
This ain't one of the ones you be like, oh man, because even in this, you can't say, because a lot of times we think we can figure God out. He didn't see this coming. He can't be like us and be like, you know what, there was something shady about me. No. But I'm reminded about another setup.
Come on now.
I'm reminded, y'all know I got to tell you the good news, right?
Yes.
Good.
By a man by the name of Jesus.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And remember, he was judged, falsely accused, he was judged.
Yeah.
Set up.
Right, set up, you set up, yeah. But that ain't the ultimate setup.
You got turned on.
He got turned on, he got betrayed, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? They thought they took his life, right?
Yeah.
They pinned him to the cross.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He bled, suffered, and died there, right?
Yes, sir.
Then they buried him in the borrowed tomb.
Yes, sir.
And then he was buried and he laid there day after day. That looked like failure, right? Looked like he had failed us, right? A lot of people thought he failed. A lot of his disciples thought all was over.
Yeah.
But guess what? On that third day,
That's right.
he was on the first chapter. On the third day, on that third day,
That's right.
it was a setup, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He got up with all power in his hand, right?
Yes.
And like JC helped me at the other place when I was preaching, guess what? It's still being set up because right now he's seated where?
The right hand of the Father.
On the right hand of the Father, and guess what? He's coming back again. So where it looked like failure when they killed him,
Mm-hmm.
and it looked like failure when they buried him, but again he got up with all power in his hand, and that is the good news. And but not, it doesn't even stop there. He's coming back again. So there's greatness
Yes.
on the other side of failure.